Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us, Park Online family. We hope you're having a great long weekend. As a reminder, we're starting services in person on September the 13th. And so you'll always be able to find us on YouTube for the most recent messages. Can't wait to preach in just a few moments about worry. But we really do want to connect you this fall with other believers, whether that's in person or online. And you can do that right now on our website with our 2020 Fall Connection Guide. It's a number of opportunities to join a community life group. And we really believe in the power of our community life groups to join people together, to be discipled one another in community, to learn to love Jesus together. And so I encourage you to visit our website and check that out and get involved in a community life group. Now we're going to join in worship with Pastor John. So maybe you want to stand and just create a posture as we invite the Holy Spirit to come and we worship.
Hey, Park Church family, we're so glad that you chose to join us today. We're going to sing, we're going to take some time to worship. I encourage you to sing along. In the arms of the Father, there is love like no other. He who formed all things offers love to me. Where you go, we will follow. Through the dark, through the narrow, and in all we do, we are bound to you. I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. We are found in your presence, seeking you in your fullness. Give us eyes to see. You are all we need, yeah. I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. Oh, I wanna be close to you. I wanna be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. My sole devotion, my only focus, to worship you. My life surrendered, my heart abandoned for more of you. My sole devotion, my only focus, to worship you. My life surrendered, my heart abandoned for more of you. I want to be close. I want to be close to you. I want to be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. I want to be close to you. I want to be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. My sole devotion, my only focus, to worship you. My life surrendered, my heart abandoned for more of you. We'll sing it one more time. My only focus to worship you. My life surrendered, my heart abandoned for more of you. For more of you. More of you. We ask for more of you.
Your love is devoted, like a ring of solid gold, like a vow that is tested, like a covenant of old. Your love is enduring through the winter rain and beyond the horizon. With mercy for today, faithful you have been, and faithful you will be. You pledge yourself to me, and it's why I sing. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. You father the orphan, your kindness makes us whole. You shoulder a weakness, and your strength becomes our own. Now you're making me like you, clothing me in white, bringing beauty from ashes. For you will have your bride, free of all her guilt, and rid of all her shame, known by her true name. And it's why I sing. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. You will be praised, you will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised, you will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised, you will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised, you will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips.
Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Oh, turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. And the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace.
So glad that you're with us here today for the Park Church online service. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody very soon, hopefully here in the building in Sherwood Park. You know, in the past couple of weeks, we've been drawing inspiration from the scriptures to address very practical issues that each one of us face in our day-to-day lives. And what I found very popular, very common, is that each one of us suffers from worry. You know, worry is something that everybody has wrestled with from time to time, and worry is especially related to depression, as Pastor Colin addressed that specifically just a few weeks ago. And if you haven't watched that message, you can find it on our YouTube channel. Worry is allowing one's mind to dwell on difficulty or trouble. It's to give way to anxiety or unease. And so when we think about it in that way, worry can become a doorway to chronic anxiety or depression. It may start small, but just like a snowball, as you roll it, it grows bigger and bigger. You continue to push it further along, it can quickly become an unmanageable mass. You know, because we all actually suffer from anxiety from time to time. You know, when I'm about to do something new or I have a challenge ahead of me, I get those sort of nervous, anxious feelings. I get a little bit of unease. You know what it is? It's like a pushback in my stomach, keeping me from where I need to go, where my mind is telling me I have to go to. It's keeping me from going where I need to go. And so there's this delicate balance between the anxiousness that I feel and my mind that's telling me I need to go forward. And to be truthfully honest, this is how I get whenever I get on a roller coaster. My fears of water and heights have been well documented, and I've talked about them, about being in open water, and God really delivering me from anxiety of being on the open seas or out in the lake when I don't know what's below me. And so I've had those anxieties, and I'm just not a huge fan of roller coasters. You know, some of them are fun, but I think most of them are just unnecessarily cruel. And so a few years ago, we were at home in Ontario visiting some family. We had the opportunity to go to Canada's Wonderland. And so we were there the whole day, you know, riding various roller coasters. But right before the park closed, we figured we would run and try and get in line for the Leviathan. Now, the Leviathan is Canada's tallest and fastest roller coaster. It's actually known as a giga coaster. And so riders ascend 306 feet up into the air, and then they drop at an 80-degree angle, and they reach speeds upwards of 148 kilometers per hour. You know, I mean, that's actually faster than most trains in Canada travel. Fun fact. And to top it all off, what makes this completely unreasonable to me is that you don't even have any shoulder restraints. Usually you can kind of hug onto those shoulder restraints and keep yourself in place. But on the Leviathan, you don't have those. You just have a very small lap restraint with two handles, which you hold on to for your life. If you really want to investigate more about what the Leviathan looks like to ride, we'll include a link to the POV of that ride in the description of this video on YouTube. And so the whole time that I'm in line, I keep telling myself, it's going to be okay. It's safe to ride. Tens of thousands of people ride this thing each and every single year, every day. But to be honest, I was really inside worried. I told myself I was safe, but I couldn't help but feel the sense of anxiety rising as I wondered if my lap restraint might fail. As I thought about the roller coaster completely coming off the tracks, I wondered about my potentially slipping out if it didn't click enough when the guy came to check it. And being so nervous and never having gone on something like this, I wondered, is there a possibility at all that I could throw up or wet myself? I didn't know what was going to happen. I really didn't. But unfortunately, uneventfully for this story, none of that happened. In fact, it was fun. We rode it, and it was good, and none of those things happened. I made it safe and sound, obviously, and we ran and we rode one more roller coaster, which was one step down from the Leviathan before the day ended. You know, Will Rogers said, "I know worrying works because none of the stuff I worried about ever happened." And so the truth of the matter really is that worrying can become debilitating at times. This persistent train of thought deepening our potential outcome that seems more and more likely to happen, more likely to become a reality. It's increasingly imminent, it's at hand, and it's more and more devastating. We just dig deeper and deeper and deeper into this sense of worry. And not to mention the fact that there seems there to be endless amounts of things that we can worry about. Of course, we worry about our kids, we worry about our family members, we worry about our jobs, we worry about our health, we can worry about our finances, we can worry about global finances, countries' finances, and this has all been ever so more compounded since the pandemic began. Worry, 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 worry. And so just take a second to survey your life. Are you worried about worry? Do you long for relief from the threat of dread? Would you categorize yourself as a chronic worrier or a worrywart or someone who becomes easily anxious? And so Jesus addresses the reality of allowing your life to be consumed by the wrong kinds of thoughts, what we would really categorize as worry. And I want to read to you today from Luke chapter 12, beginning in verse 22. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, Do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or your body, and what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body is more than clothes. Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storerooms or barns, yet God feeds them. How much more valuable are you than birds? And who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? He goes on in verse 27. Consider the wildflowers and how they grow. They don't labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or what you will drink, and do not worry about it. For the pagan world runs after such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. You know, when you're doing something that you're not very happy with, or that you know is wrong, or destructive, or maybe even dangerous, and it's a pattern. You know, maybe it's eating the wrong way, or maybe it's an addiction that you have, and you know that you shouldn't be doing it. The advice to just quit really is no consolation and no help at all. And then to say that we struggle with worry, and Jesus says, stop worrying, don't worry, it doesn't make those thoughts or those feelings disappear. And you know, as catchy as the song is, you can sing it until you're blue in the face. It won't change things. Don't worry, be happy. It's not really great advice. It's a good song, but it's not great advice. It doesn't work. And so I really did a lot of digging into the Greek word used for worry. And it's a word merimnao. And it means deep concern, anxious, or worry. And so what I found, although I didn't find anybody specifically saying this, I found that there's very common root words to the word marinate. You know, marinate actually comes from a Latin word meaning of the sea. It's linked to the brining or pickling process, that saltiness from the sea. But many forms of the word are very similar. And so if it's nothing less than to illustrate worry, marinating precisely describes the effects that worrying can have on you. If you stew on something or you dwell on something for any lengthy period of time or a particular topic, that subject, that can have long-term effects on you. Of course, we know this when it comes to meats or to vegetables. You know, it really imparts a particular flavor. And so when we think about our souls, when we think of our soul, and to dwell or to worry, we are essentially marinating on a particular negative outcome. And when we do that, it can really have long-term effects on us. And as I had said before, it really can become a doorway to depression when we choose to marinate or dwell on these negative things and thoughts and possible outcomes. And so what Jesus is saying is that we shouldn't think about our need for food or clothes. He's not saying, hey, just pay no mind to those things. It's not that we shouldn't plan or be concerned about being fed or having the proper clothes on. Obviously, I had to choose this shirt today and these clothes. I had to work at and go to the grocery store in order to have food to eat for breakfast, for lunch, or dinner, or whatever. There's still some plan. He's not saying, don't even worry about that stuff, because clothes won't fall onto your body or food onto your plate. It's just that it shouldn't dominate our thinking. Our life shouldn't be centered around the acquisition of more food or more clothes, because the substance of life is so much more than that. It's so much more. And this discussion with his disciples is directly following the parable of the rich young fool, and he decides that he's going to set himself up to take it easy in life. He's going to do all that he can. He's going to work hard so he can just eat, drink, and be merry and live a great life. But he doesn't realize that his life is going to be cut short. He's not going to live long enough to enjoy it. because in all of the planning and all of his doing, he forsakes God. He neglects God. Jesus tells his disciples plainly, life is more than food and the body is more than clothes. The word translated for life is more often used in the New Testament and translated as soul. Our eternal soul, rather than, it's that deepness inside of us. Jesus tells us plainly that our life is just more important than this. The deepness inside of us. It's the seat of affections or will, what's deep down inside. It cannot be for temporal gains or pleasures or possessions. That's simply not what our soul is meant to encompass. Worry cannot be the substance of your soul because you were created for so much more. And so Jesus says it's just like ravens or lilies. You were created for more. Neither of them is unimportant to God, but you're of greater value because you're the crown jewel of all of his creation, and he cares for you. The argument here is that if the lesser is true, then the greater must be true. And so he says, look at the ravens. God cares for ravens. Ravens are of the genus Corvus. Ravens, I looked it up, eat carrion, which is decaying flesh of dead animals. But they can also eat plants, and they can also eat bugs. And just think about the illustration. He didn't use chipmunks or squirrels, the ones that store up for the winter. Ravens can't do that. They're reliant each and every day for their food, and so they depend on God's creation to survive. Therefore, if God made provisions daily for the ravens in his creation, he clearly will provide for you and for me, because it says very explicitly, we're worth more to him than ravens. And so the futility of making the substance of your life food or clothes is equally as futile as trying to add an inch to how tall you are, about worrying how tall you're going to be. It's futile. You won't get anywhere. I didn't worry about becoming this tall. I actually worried about becoming too tall, and so would have worked at not becoming so tall. Worry simply doesn't work. And so what's the antidote for our worry? We can see that worry is toxic. It's so toxic it can have a long-term or lasting effect on your life. But what is the remedy? It's not just, as Jesus says, worry less. He tells us that what we should do to combat worry is this. It's to consider. It's to consider. And I alluded to this past week, looking ahead. We need to consider. In life you might be told to stop and smell the roses. Don't just plow ahead. Don't just plot a course. You need to take time to stop and smell the roses. And that isn't really a good antidote to worry either. But if we were to take Jesus at his words, I think he would say the argument would be to consider the lilies. Consider the lilies. Simply to not try to worry doesn't lead us anywhere. In fact, it may worry in trying not to worry about worry. Sort of just compound. So Jesus says the counter to worry is for us to consider. Don't worry about your life. Consider the ravens. Don't worry about food or about drink. Consider the lilies of the field. And so to consider is an active thought process to oppose the source of worry. And the word consider in the Greek text is the word katanoeo. And it means to take thought, to investigate, or to look more closely. It's the process of fixing one's eyes on something. And so rather than marinating on our misery or on our worry, contemplating what could go wrong and the outcomes that may overtake us, we have to exercise our faith muscle and focus our minds towards God. I never liked the term or the excuse that Christians are blind or that we have a blind faith. Because faith truly isn't blind, and it doesn't require us to turn a blind eye to our circumstances or to live without cause. Faith really is active, and your faith must be active. Faith is a choice to consider and yet believe. Faith is focusing on hope rather than working at worry. And this is what Jesus is teaching us. He's really teaching us a principle to our faith, to look at the balances and see the greater argument is to trust in God rather than to worry. It's not to neglect the circumstances. It's not to discount the evidence. It's to simply take into consideration that we don't see the scale as one-sided, but to put in the balances the God that we serve and the work he's done for us. And when we do this, we certainly get a lot of inspiration in the Psalms. Psalm 77:12 says, I consider all your works. I meditate on your mighty deeds. In other words, I look closely and I remind myself of your mighty deeds. And that's really what meditating is. It's actually a focusing. You know, in New Age, we tend to think of meditating as clearing your mind, as emptying it, when really meditating is bringing up over and over, reminding yourself, dwelling on one particular thing. You may have heard meditating described as the same process as a cow chewing its cud. It's I'm going to remember, and then I'm going to bring up, I'm going to remember again. Let me go back. Let me retell myself. I love how the Amplified Bible puts this same psalm. It says, I'll meditate on your works and thoughtfully consider your great and gracious deeds. You see, those words are interchangeable. Consider and meditate. Consider, meditate. I have to purposely put my mind on God's wonderful deeds and then investigate, to gaze at them, to consider them, to look into them. What great and wondrous deeds has God done in your life that you need to remember, that you need to consider, that you need to bring up and meditate on over and over, reminding yourself of how wonderful God has been towards you. You know, I had this same experience just this past week when Facebook reminded me of God's wondrous deeds. And I had a Facebook memory pop up, and it talked about a period just over 4 years ago when I was unemployed for 322 days. And I said, well, what did I learn in 10 months of unemployment? And it was simply that God is faithful. God is faithful. And I remembered that, and it really lifted my spirits. It bolstered my faith to remember. One thing that I'm trying to do, practice in my own life, is to take my prayer journals, my various books where I just write my Hearing God notes, and to just read them, to pick them up and read them over and remind myself what God has done, remind myself what he's saying to me. You know, you may pray, God, on this side of the scale, I see so much cause for worry, for concern in the world. I see so many reasons that I should be scared and should be anxious. I see the negative reports. I read the history of other people's experience. That's all stacked up against you. But then you say, but God, on this side, you're the God who never fails. You're the God who never leaves us or forsakes us. You're the one who acted mightily in my life. You're the one who opened the eyes of the blind. You're the one who raised the dead. And you begin to see the scales being tipped and the weight of your worry being overshadowed by the weight of God. That's really what the word glory means. It's the weightiness of God. When we consider his glory, he begins to outweigh the circumstances that we see. And it's because we consider, because we take into consideration, we think about. You remember many people in the Old Testament, that's what they did when they were talking to God. They were setting it up, saying, you're the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, remembering God's faithfulness towards Abraham, faithfulness to his promise, to Isaac, to Jacob, who wrestled with God and yet experienced him. To know God was with him, that God was in the place with him. They reminded themselves, they had to consider. Psalm 143 verse 5 says, I remember the days of long ago. And here's this word again, I meditate on your works and consider what your hands have done. You know, we need a return to awestruck wonder that we get when we receive and we consider God. When we consider God, when we think about and dwell upon his glory, when we begin to let that sink in or marinate, we're really changed when we consider God to this depth. You know, so many people have become expert worriers, but not many have become expert considerers or those that are experts at considering their faith or considering and diving deep into the weightiness of God. You know, even Jesus had, I believe, considering faith. When he was faced with the agony and the torment of the cross, Jesus could perceive all that was going to happen with him. He knew what was to come on his journey, the rejection that he was going to endure, the torture that he was going to endure, the pain that he was going to endure. And then he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, God, not my will, not what I perceive to be a better route, not what I perceive is going to be hurtful, but your will be done. I want what you have in store for me. And so he was in agony. He was marinating in this agony. But when he lifted his gaze and considered what God was doing, it gave him strength and resolve to carry on and see God be his deliverer. It's what Philippians 2, 6 and 7, I believe, really describes. Jesus, who, being in the very nature of God, we're talking about Jesus, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Did not consider. As he weighed it out, he didn't consider it to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing, taking on the very nature of a servant. And it goes on to say, humbling himself, becoming obedient to death, even to death on a cross. And so he weighed in the balances what it would mean for him to bear our sin and our shame on the cross, what it would mean to be despised and rejected. And then he considered. He weighed it out. He considered that you and I were worth much more than that pain. We were worth much more. He considered. So you can conquer worry today as you begin to consider God, to investigate, to fix your gaze on what he's done. As you allow yourself to experience the weightiness of his glory, you'll begin to feel yourself being pulled from the dark cloud of doom and dread. You're being lifted out of that brine, that marinating of worry. You know, if we were to consider or to look anywhere else, if we were to attempt to look within to our own strength, or even if we were to look to without, to seek friends, to seek counsel, intervention by others, their consolation, their advice, maybe even their resources or their means to get us by, they would only be a temporary fix, and they wouldn't be a long-term solution or healing from the plague of worry. It wouldn't pull us out. But when we choose to exercise our faith, that faith muscle, and to set our heart on God, set our heart on him, putting him in the equation of our worry, he brings us peace. And so if you begin to feel yourself marinating in those worries, when they begin to take hold of you, and those times you maybe be times you probably don't feel like praying. It's probably hard to pray when you're worrying because you're just processing and processing. But it's in those times that we can reach for our Bible, or we can reach for those prayer journals, and we can look into and consider, gaze deeply upon all that God has done and his unending faithfulness. We can consider God's creation. We can look outside. We can consider the birds, how they don't sow and they don't reap, and yet God clothes them and he feeds them. We can look at the flowers. We can look at God's wonderful creation in trees and know that they declare God's wondrous goodness because he sustains all these things. He's sustaining them even as he will sustain you. And so you don't need to worry. God's sustaining his creation, and each one of you are at the center of it. We're at the center of it. So we need to consider God. One more scripture as we're getting ready to close. Romans 8:32. He, God, who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, being Jesus, graciously give us all things? And so I don't know where you are today with your worry or with your journey with anxiety or worry, marinating in those dreadful outcomes. But I want to give you an opportunity now to really consider God, to consider all that he's done, to look in and gaze upon his goodness towards you, and to see those worries fall away, those anxious feelings melt away, that you might receive a freedom from them because of the fullness of God in you. And so I want to be able to pray for you if that's what you're struggling with. And so you can simply confess and receive today as I pray. Lord Jesus, we know of your goodness. We read about your faithfulness, the mighty work you did for each and every one of us on the cross. You want us to be free from worry. You want us to be free to pursue the purposes you placed in each one of our lives without having to worry about all the peripheral things that try to drag us down from that purpose. And so today, God, I'm praying for all those people that are watching or listening to this, that are struggling in their soul, in that seat of will in their life with worry that ties them up and keeps them down. And I pray in these moments right now, you just might reveal your glory to them, the weightiness of who you are, that they might see you pulling them from those circumstances, fixing their gaze on you, fixing their heart on you, and that, God, that they would just be able to leave that worry behind. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, if God is doing something in your life through this and you've received and really know that he's delivering you from that worry, we'd love to hear about it. And you can email us, info@theparkchurch.ca, and tell us all about God's journey in you and how he's working through your life because of the Park Church Online. Also, just a huge thank you as well to your giving and your faithfulness to us. We can't do this without your contribution, so whether you use Tithely or you give online, we thank you for your continued faithfulness in giving. And we hope to see you soon. I hope that you'll be able to join us here in person starting September the 13th as we begin our services live from the Park Church. And if not, and you continue to see us online, we'll be meeting at a new time online beginning next week. And you can always connect with us on Instagram and on Facebook and through our website. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again.